Let's get more on the Dillian Whyte situation. Head of Queensberry Promotions, Frank Warren, joins us now. Morning, Frank. How are you?
I'm fine, Natalie. How are you? Good morning, Andy.
Good morning, Frank. Don't have a go at me, Frank.
I was going to say, you're going to be kind and civil, aren't you, the pair of you?
No, I'm a happy camper. We did well yesterday. I'm all for this extension in time.
Are you really? Yeah, you like you.
Yeah, I thought. Look, it works for both teams, doesn't it? You both have a certain amount of period to carry on, and at the end of the day, I thought Arsenal. I know what the game's community shield and so forth, but at the end of the day, it's a great thing to start the season with. To beat the 3 times champions.
Well, this is true. And that's why Arsenal fans are probably buzzing after that result at Wembley yesterday. But we've got to ask you about your thoughts on what's happened this weekend with regards to Whyte and Joshua's fight, the adverse findings, that test result. It's just, for many people, another sorry day for heavyweight boxing.
I agree. It's a great shame, but the best way to deal with this is for a hearing to be convened as soon as possible, the B sample to be put in by Dillian, and if what he says is true, then he'll be exonerated. If he isn't, then that'll be the end of him for a long time. What needs to be done? What's the problem with all this is it's various issues on it, but the main problem for me is how it's dealt with and the time it's taken to deal with them. They're dragging on and on and on, and at the end of the day, all it does is it drags the sport down, and it at times looked that there's no control over it. And I think the Boxing Board of Control got to really stand up firm. They've got to call for this hearing quickly. There will be, as I say, a B sample, so it's not going to be rocket science to get this sorted out.
Yeah, and from a promoter's point of view, Frank, it must be like your absolute worst nightmare, because you get news like that, you've got to somehow try and find a replacement, if that's at all possible, the right replacement, someone that you feel is the right kind of fight that your fighter's been training for. So it must have been chaos the last few days, I'm sure, for Eddie Hearn.
Yeah, it would have been, and nobody wants, I certainly, I've been in that position myself in the past, and you certainly don't want to be in that position, and you do your best you can to work it out. But I think also what needs to be addressed as well is when this actually came to light. Did it come to light on Friday, or was it a week ago, or 2 weeks ago? No one knows that yet.
No.
Yeah, that's the strange thing, because that was a similar thing with Conor Benn, and how the test was taken ages ago and then it was revealed late on. It does seem as though there's some very muddy waters right now with those kind of test results and boxing.
You're right, Natalie. And what's happening is it's obviously, in that case, the boxer's employed a lawyer who's doing his job for his client to find a way to get him out of any problems that he's in. But what I find amazing about this, apparently the second test, there's been no hearing for the second test. There's been arguments over the jurisdiction, but I'm led to believe, and I don't think it's wrong, that there has not been a hearing to determine whether Conor's second test, when he was found positive, whether that there should have been a hearing to determine whether he should be allowed to box. The board have not cleared him. The board haven't said for 1 minute that he can fight yet. But the fact of the matter is, from what I understand, there hasn't been a hearing to determine that. All that's been is a hearings to determine who has jurisdiction to hear it, which is ridiculous.
Frank, out of the options for Anthony Joshua now, we had Spencer Oliver on earlier. He spoke about Washington, he spoke about Chisora, etc. People like this that could possibly step in. We've even read earlier somewhere today that Andy Ruiz or something would be interested very much for that. He did. So out of all the names that are out there, Frank, who's the one you think that if they can get it sorted, they'll go for?
They'll go for the easiest one they can, because they don't want to jeopardise the payday they think they're going to get in Saudi Arabia with Skills Challenge.
Right. That's
what this has all been about. That's why the division's been held up for nearly a year now. But that's now changing, and we'll see. But, I don't think him and Derek Chisora is going to set the world on fire. I mean, I got enough criticism over Derek Chisora fighting Tyson when he was ranked. He was soundly beaten by Tyson.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's much of a fight. And there's a few other guys there, but they'll go for the easiest option if he goes ahead and if AJ goes ahead and fights.
You say the easiest option, Andy. You were saying to me off air about how whoever that potential fighter could be, could they hold, Matchroom to ransom a little bit, perhaps by saying, well, if you want me to step up last minute, you're going to have to pay me a lot more.
Well, that's right. I mean, that happens to you. I mean, as I say, I've been in that position, and you can't blame people for doing that. They've got to do the best they can for their fighter. But there's another way to look at it as well for a potential opponent to fight AJ, and you beat him, then you're really into a big position. You're in a great position to earn some serious money. And at this moment in time, in my opinion, AJ is very vulnerable.
Yeah, you must have someone, Frank. Come on, you got someone who can step up at the last minute.
Well, unfortunately, all my guys we're busy. Every big heavyweight fight that is actually taking place involves one of our fighters. We've got a massive heavyweight fight coming up with Usyk and Dubois, which this month in Poland. Then we've got the rematch between Zhang and Joyce, which is a cracking fight. And then we've got Tyson out again in Saudi Arabia in his crossover event with Ngannou. So all our guys are very busy, but any of those, they wouldn't have taken them anyway. If we'd offered one of them. And certainly we wouldn't talk about offering Tyson up. Tyson's the lineal champion.
Yeah, and in terms of the difficulties for Joshua, Frank, is that, like all of you guys, you're not only looking at the next fight, you're looking at the next one, the next two. You're trying to get diaries sorted out and schedules sorted out for next year. So, so this is imperative for Joshua to get this one right.
It is, but he has to. He had what you want to call a warm-up fight after his losses. A few months ago, and now he should be stepping up a bit. So you'd expect him to be somebody that's in the ring with somebody who at least has a pulse.
Nicely put, Frank. Frank, it's great to chat to you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Frank.
It's a pleasure. All the best.
You take care.